You're listening to Fusion Patrol, a listener-supported podcast. Each week, we take a single episode of a science fiction TV series, movie, or audio and overanalyze it to within an inch of its life. Welcome to the discussion. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fusion Patrol. I'm Eugene.
And I'm Ben.
And tonight we are, I don't know, is this World Beyond Movie Night? I don't know. It's not a movie. It's a special. It's a follow-up to World Beyond Movie Night.
It's a one-off.
It's a one-off. I don't know where I'm going to put this in the categories. We are going to be looking at Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Not the movie. We've done that. We're going to be looking at a particular episode. Not the pilot. Oh, no. No, that would be too logical. We're going to be looking at Season 2. Episode 18, The Sky's on Fire. And the reason we're looking at that particular episode should become clear as we go through the synopsis. The year is 1978, and the SSRN Seaview is approaching the end of a 4-day journey under the Antarctic ice shelf when the ship is buffeted with a series of impact strikes. Even at 500-foot depth, the Seaview is struck by falling ice breaking off the ice shelf. Finding a clear patch of ocean to surface, they find the sky is on fire, and the ambient temperature is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Contacting Washington, they learn what has happened. An intense meteor storm has set the atmosphere alight all across the southern hemisphere. It hasn't spread to the northern hemisphere yet, but there are worries that it might. The greatest scientific minds of the world are meeting, both of them, in Washington, and Washington orders Nelson to attend. He takes the flying sub and returns. Along the way, he devises a plan to launch a nuclear weapon into the atmosphere at precisely the right time and location to blow out the fire. When he presents his plan, Dr. Weber doesn't agree. He believes that an hour after Nelson's calculated critical moment, the fire will reach 173 degrees Fahrenheit and burn itself out. Further, he believes Nelson's plan will cause the northern hemisphere's atmosphere to ignite, killing everyone on the planet, not just those pesky southern hemispherians. The Seaview is already en route to the launch point, and the flying sub will return, bringing along Commander McHenry, Dr. Weber, and Dr. Carlton. In the end, they must come to a consensus on the best course of action, but the UN will make the final decision based on their recommendation. The atmospheric conditions are getting worse, and the flying sub nearly crashes when it passes into the southern hemisphere. But they make it to the Seaview, and the race to the missile launch point is on. Nelson and Weber are dead set on their own plans. Nelson is worried about the millions of people who are dying or will die in the southern hemisphere, while Weber is convinced that Nelson's missile will ignite the northern hemisphere and kill everyone else. Commander McHenry favors Nelson's solution. But the last man on the team, Dr. Carlton, is timid and undecided. His will be the crucial vote. Weber isn't satisfied with just trying to convince Carlton. He manages to inject Chief Sharky with a drug hidden in his ring, causing Sharky to see things Weber's way and even become fanatical about it. Mind control. It's always mind control on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Or giant sea monsters. Or aliens. Or giant sea monsters and aliens and mind control.
Ghosts.
And ghosts and mind control. He also murders McHenry in his bunk by setting it afire. Sharky tries stirring the crew into action and gets into a fight with Kowalski and Riley, but when he strikes Exo Morton, he's arrested. Sharky is taken to sickbay because he seems crazed. The Seaview has been unable to reach the UN, so they're on their own and will have to make the decision themselves. Nelson makes Carlton realize his own shortcomings and that not deciding is still a decision, and he will have to live with it for the rest of his life. Thousands are dying as they speak, and inaction is just letting more die. Carlton agrees to Nelson's plan, and in a moment of rare but misguided and stupid courage, he decides to tell Weber himself. Weber murders him, and Weber has also injected Kowalski, Riley, and other members of the crew with his drug. Carlton's death is staged to look like an accident, which also blows out a transformer on the Seaview, and part of the submarine falls to the ocean floor. I know that doesn't make any sense, but just go with it. We have more movie stock footage to squeeze in. Crane leads a team to the bottom to retrieve the part, and the Seaview is underway again. The doc finds that Sharky was drugged and, having shaken it off, is returned to duty, just in time for Kowalski and the others to take Nelson and Crane at gunpoint to stop the missile launch. Sharky redeems himself by disarming the men, and the race to launch the missile is back on. But Weber hasn't murdered 2 men just to let the planet be destroyed by Nelson. Getting a gun and a grenade, he shoots out the missile launch control and holds Nelson and the bridge crew hostage as the time runs out for the launch. Crane, overhearing the kerfluffle, goes outside the sub and installs an auto-launch doohickey on the missile, and, at the appointed time, the missile launches. Sharky uses the moment of confusion to jump Weber. The grenade, trapped under Weber's body, goes off, killing everyone aboard the Seaview. Nope, strike that. Killing Weber and Sharky with shrapnel injuring Nelson, Morton, and other members of the bridge. No, strike that. Killing Weber and knocking out Sharky. The fire in the sky has been extinguished. Nelson was right, but we will never know if Weber was too. The end. All right, well, if it isn't obvious, this is a remake of the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea movie with our TV series cast and with some interesting changes.
A few.
I mean, the moral dilemma is completely different in this film, right?
Okay.
There is in the original film, it is definitely, if we don't blow out the atmosphere, if the atmosphere doesn't stop being on fire, the Van Allen belt in the film, but it's the atmosphere in the TV show. If it doesn't go out, all life on Earth is extinguished. Period. Done. End of discussion.
End of discussion. Yep.
Right. If the problem, of course, the dilemma is that, and I don't remember what the scientist's name. It wasn't Weber. It was a French name.
Yeah.
But if he's right, it will go out on its own. But if he's wrong, all life on Earth will die. If Nelson's right, the atmosphere will be extinguished a bit earlier than that. But if he's wrong, all life on Earth will be extinguished. So it's an extinction level event at all cases. But here we've got not just only the southern hemisphere. Wow. Okay. Only the southern hemisphere sky is on fire. And this is a hallmark of William Welch, the writer's tendencies on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. But if Weber is wrong, everyone in the southern hemisphere dies, but everyone in the northern hemisphere is fine. So that's all that matters. And so it's not.
Yeah.
And then if Nelson's wrong, it could cause the northern hemisphere to ignite and everyone on Earth. So the stakes are different. The risks, and they do mention that it's possible that the fire will spread to the northern hemisphere anyway. And if Weber's wrong, it might then subsequently do that. But yeah, it's odd. And of course, no one's dying in the United States where they're watching this right now. Right. The people who are dying are all in South America and Australia and New Zealand and, places like that, where I guess it's okay that we kill thousands, if not millions of people for a TV show.
Weber was fine with it.
Yeah, it's really, I would love to sit down with Welch and go, okay, why did you do that? I mean, it alters it alters what the risks are, or it kind of ups them. It makes Nelson's plan seem a little more risky because, we're dying anyway. Right. But in the show, most of us won't die probably anyway. So
I'll let them all die.
Yeah. It is. I'm willing to bet that there is something to do with television standards and practices in swing there, but I can't for the life of me figure out what it is.
I have no idea. And it also calls into question the very character of Weber. This was a villain, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
That almost came off as well. He was. There was something. There was something very cliche about him, especially when he started drugging people.
Yeah, why did he
Where did that
I mean,
brain come from, and how many doses of that drug does it have anyway?
it's not just that. It's like based on
But
where they're in this meeting in Washington, it sounds like they're getting ready, "Let's go hop on the sub, we're flying out of here."
let's take care of it.
There's no
Yeah.
time for Weber to go back to his house and go, "Oh, maybe I should bring along a drug that makes people see things my way, and I'll put it in a ring just in case I have to drug people." It doesn't seem to be like any. Now, here's the thing. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the TV series, which, you know, when it started out, particularly in its black and white, you had a lot more Cold War stuff in it. And so it's very, very common for there to be an agent amongst the guest stars
And
who
that's
are
what I
on
was
the series.
expecting.
And that's what
That's what
Weber feels like.
he does
Yeah.
feel like that, but we get nothing more on the guy.
And
And
no, I think he genuinely just is afraid Nelson's plan will blow out the planet.
well, that's what we have as facts in terms of everything that we learn. Even in the tag of the episode, if you want to call it that, where Nelson and Crane are talking to Sharky?
Yeah, Sharky.
Uh, yeah,
Chief Shark.
in sick bay. And if there was an opportunity to say, "Oh, by the way, we looked further into Weber and we discovered this," I could have accepted it. But we don't even get that. We're left with nothing about Weber, and all he comes off is this cliche villain who the only thing that he wasn't doing because he didn't have it was a handlebar mustache that he could twirl while he was trying to hatch what the next stage of his of whatever nefarious plan, just so that things would go his way. It was it was the one element. I mean, okay, let the science. I'm giving
Yeah.
I'm giving that a wave because it's Irwin Allen. It's 60s TV. It is what it is. I'm giving
Oh,
it a
it's
hand
William
wave.
Welch, the writer. Yeah. I mean, he is the man when it comes to he's like wrote 30 plus episodes of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. He is the guy that brings the ghosts and the weird stuff. And he's frequently praised for very good character dialogue. But he comes up with some wild concepts that are perhaps fun, but it's he's not worried about the scientific rigor
Right.
on those
So
things.
so what we've got now is this crazed villain whose motivations okay, we get what his motivations are, but I keep getting the feeling that there's a lot more behind this guy. Especially I the guy is so unhinged that I couldn't believe I had a hard time accepting, that someone of his stature could have become attached to the UN in the capacity that he was, unless he was some kind of agent. But again, we never get that.
Well, so
He's just a loon.
here's my question, and I'm not, for the sake of argument. First off, let me be clear. Weber might be right.
We
Weber
never
is
learn.
an expert.
We
We
never
can't
know if he's
learn
right or not.
because the way the drama is structured, either here or in the original movie, right, is that Nelson's plan must be affected before the other scientists, Weber and Jacques Weber in the movie or whatever his name was, can be proved right. Right? Nelson's plan has a time limit. Their plan has a time, and the two don't work so that you can't test them both. It's one or the other. So Weber could be right. He could be the world's greatest expert on gases, and he could be 100% correct. He's absolutely certain that it will burn out, and he could be absolutely right. And yet here is Nelson with his plan to nuke the atmosphere, and he genuinely believes, in this case he turns out to be wrong, but because he's not a nuclear physicist, he's just a gas expert, but he genuinely believes that Nelson will kill all of them. How far would you go if you were absolutely sure that there was a madman who was going to blow up the world. I mean,
Hmm.
how far would you go? And you could manipulate Weber into this, but the fact that he has a mind control drug on his ring,
That's the thing that I get really lost on.
it's
That's
like,
the part that bugs me. I mean, it's so well, basically what we need is we need a villain who is sort of comparable to Michael Ansara's character from the movie.
yeah,
Now, in the case of Michael Ansara, he used his words to convince people into thinking his way. Granted, as you pointed out earlier, the stakes were different. So perhaps it was easier to do that, to alter the stakes for this episode and then getting rid of that particular character and transferring uh his need of persuasion over to Weber. That's the part that really shortchanged it for me in
okay.
a pretty significant way.
Let me. I joked. I know. I joked about it when we were doing the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea movie episode, and I intentionally put it into my recap here because I had forgotten that they actually did use mind control in this one. They always use mind control in the series, but there is a very real reason for this. So in the movie, and I think it's great that they were actually able to use the same actor. Kowalski, the guy in red,
Mhm.
the second one that goes
Yeah,
under, is the guy that led the revolt
he led the
in
revolt,
the
yeah.
movie. But he has a slightly different name. It was Kolski or Kowalski or something, but it was a Polish name, and it was the same actor. And that's why I was saying, no, Kowalski, no, don't do it. Everyone on that in the movie, it's a crew of a submarine. But in the TV series, every last man on that sub, except for any guest actors there are, would take a bullet for Crane or Nelson. Kowalski,
Yeah.
Riley, Sharky, they are all 100% loyal. And the only way that you can take a TV series where basically your entire cast is 100% loyal except for the guest artists it's like is mind control. It's why they fall back on it over and over again in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, is because it's the only way to get a group of men to cause a problem aboard the Seaview, because it's a contained submarine, and they, you know, unless they go on board land or something, then the episodes on the submarine, you have to mind control somebody. You have to possess them. You have to do something. It's a shortcut and it's a cheat. And I'd forgotten that they did it in this film or in this episode, but I should have. I When I was watching the movie, I was thinking that, you see, this could never happen on the TV series because the crew would never revolt. They've been through too much with Nelson. They know, they trust him. They believe in him. It's like the crew of the Enterprise and Captain Kirk. They absolutely believe in him. And so they had to do it. But I yeah, it's just it really stretches it then to have Weber have that drug, because it's not like he's an expert in mind control drugs. He's an expert in gases.
Mhm.
And if he'd been an expert in mind control, and there is no other reason. There's no reason for a foreign power, right? The other time is it's usually, the other side wants to stop us from having this base, or they want to take our land. There's
Right.
no side for
You
that in
don't
this
get that.
film either. Yeah, it's like, I think the Russians probably want us to put the fire out too. you know?
That's the part about all of this that bothers me, is that we get aside Weber comes off as completely being self-motivated and
Yeah,
utterly
if
convinced
I'm right.
in his belief that he is right, that at 175 degrees, it will burn out. And now, to your I must go back and say that with the movie, they altered things a little bit because the French scientists said that the sky or the fire would hit a temperature of 175 degrees at this time. Well, it turns out it didn't. It hit it earlier.
It did hit it just before
It
the
did hit it just before the required time for the rocket to be launched
Now,
because
I have a question though about that. It made me think of it when I was watching this one. It's like 100 it was 173 degrees Where? Was
Mm.
it up in the atmosphere? Was it down on the surface of the ocean? Was it down on the surface of the ocean in the Pacific, or was it down on the surface of the ocean somewhere in the Atlantic? Where
Yeah, they never
where was
say.
that 173-degree
They
line?
never yeah, they never specify it. Yeah,
So
because, it's
say,
not the same temperature everywhere you go.
was it the mean temperature? It's like this a
I don't
whole
know.
millions of questions about that. It just basically set up the tension between the 2 things. This is gonna happen shortly after you have to fire the missile, and yeah, and of course, it's basically the same in this one. It's like, 173 where? It's like
Yeah, and here's the other end of this that kinda just bugs me, and I don't know this is a personal pet peeve of mine, but before Nelson's plan has a chance to succeed, Weber had to die. And I'm one of these people, I don't know why, but when you've got your bad guy who believes he's righteous in his cause,
Mhm.
and I how do I word this?
You want him to see he's wrong,
I want
right?
to see the yeah, I want him to see the error in his ways,
You want
and
him to
he never
that,
I
yeah.
want yeah, I wanted that. We never get it in the movie, because
No,
it just they blow it out, "Oh, congratulations," and credits.
but again, the French scientists might well, but see, that's the thing about that whole temperature thing. He predicted when it would burn itself out at a precise time,
Yeah, but he
and
never said where.
no, he never said where, but he said at a precise time it'll reach 173 degrees and it will go out. But the sea view is somewhere on the other side of the planet, and it says, "Well, it's 173 degrees outside, and it didn't burn itself out." It's like, well, no, he meant 173 degrees over the UN building.
Mhm.
You know, he said it was tomorrow, and so maybe that's not wrong. Again, that scientist might have been right. He will never know for sure, unless
Yeah,
it
and for all we know, that scientist probably thought that he was right even when
probably
the
still
fire
did.
he yeah, I mean, okay, so in the movie, Nelson launches the rocket, blows the fire out, great. But over at the UN, he's patting himself on the back saying, "See, I was right."
I would have been right. Yeah, it would have. Yeah, and of course, in this one, he's murdered people, so he can't be redeemed.
No, but I still want to see that, "Oh, crap. I was wrong?
Eh,
Impossible." That I want that bit, and
he
I
might
didn't
be
get it.
mad. Oh wait, he already was.
Yeah.
Ah, so let's talk a little bit about that drug. I mean, what the heck? How? What did that drug? What did that drug do? Did it make them open to suggestion? Did it instill doubts and fears in them so that when he went and talked to him and said, "Oh yeah, he's going to blow up the planet," that radicalized them? If if Nelson had gotten to Sharky first, would he have gone fanatically nuts the other way? Because
That's a good
it seems
question.
seems unlikely the drug was designed to make you believe that firing a nuclear missile into the sky is gonna destroy the world, therefore we must stop it. So it had to have been instilled, had to be doing, and he was doing that. I mean, he gave Sharky the drug, then later he met up with him and he like gave him the spiel, right? And then he gave the drug to the crew members, and then he gave them the spiel. Like,
Mhm.
it's gonna blow up the world and stuff. So I kind of feel like that's what they were going for.
That's what
But
I thought too. And again, I thought, "Okay, well, this is '60s television. It's mind control. Hand wave."
maybe this is how Weber gets grad students to go out with him. I don't know. Maybe he has that ring on all the time. Could be his Bill Cosby thing. But
Maybe that's how
mm,
he got into the position that he is
could be that too.
in,
Could be that.
and really, he has 0 qualifications.
Yeah. He's like, I just worked my way up through the ring here.
Yep.
Uh, but it's just so random that he has that ring on him. Just that's I see it. Well, that is just yeah,
It was
okay.
annoying.
Let's see. And the funny thing is like, okay, if Weber is right, and if Nelson is right, the death toll is the same. I mean, there's still millions of people have probably died. I mean,
Yeah.
for a TV episode, they killed a lot of people. And I actually felt like it was clearer, how many people were dying in the TV episode than they were in the movie.
Yeah, there was very little guesswork. Nothing nebulous in terms of how many people had died in this. It was they were counting bodies.
They were counting bodies. In the film, we do see the ship that's everyone on board is dead. They come up, the ship's in the weird fog and everybody's dead. And it implies that, lots of other people are in fact dying. But all the news reports are all talking about how crop failures and dust bowl conditions and forest fires and all of those things kill people, although crop failures don't kill you right away. But the forest fires do and floods and dams bursting. Those are all things that kill people, but I don't believe that there's a single reference of like, the town of Palermo, Italy was wiped out when a dam burst and 50,000 people are feared dead.
No,
Nothing like that.
yeah, I don't remember there being any kind of death toll in the movie.
Right. So, I mean, it when we come to the end of that film and they just end it, and I think we did talk about this, it's like I would have liked to have known how many people were left alive.
Exactly.
And
Well,
we
to
just
get some,
simply
well, not
don't know.
just not just a death toll, but a final assessment of the status of the Earth,
Yeah,
because obviously people had to have died. I mean, you and I, we live here in Phoenix, and we hear about homeless people who die every summer here. It's
I
not.
did.
I mean, it's. I hate to call it common, but in its own way, it is. So if the temperature got to be, approaching 100, well, it is over 170 degrees by the time the movie's reaching its end, there has to be a death toll. Not if directly because of the heat, indirectly because of things the heat is doing that's affecting other aspects that could kill people, fires, etc. And we get none of that because the toll on the human race has to be significant in some fashion or another. And there's no mention of it. It's like, oh, the fire's out. Not only is the fire out, but we've just hit a reset button.
Mhm. And
That's
I'll
what it
and I
feels
will
like.
say, you know, uh, gosh, I think this one will actually come out before it happens. I will be moving to Taiwan in in a few months from today's date, but less months from the time this comes out, and, if you're listening in the future, probably long ago. And it's a thing over there that we don't have over here, and that's called it's humid. And
Yeah.
I have been there in the summer when it is humid, and, I've been out I walked down to the hot dog stand for lunch at the time and on the day in Phoenix when it was 50 degrees centigrade. Celsius, sorry, centigrade's an old habit. Celsius. And it's hot
Mhm.
and it's miserable and it's, 10% humidity, right? So you survive. You sweat, the 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 evaporation cools you. It's not good. And, I wasn't outside for hours or anything like that, but you can do that. But a wet bulb temperature of 30 degrees is lethal. And that's, of course,
Mhm.
wet bulb being high humidity. So, if it was over 100 degrees planetary wide, there are places where, those people would have just been dying, just absolutely dropping dead. Not like the homeless people here in Phoenix that have the low humidity, just I hate to say, to survive, but if you had the exact same encampment in Chicago as you did in Phoenix and the temperatures were up there, it would be an 100% kill rate in Chicago as
Mhm.
opposed to what we think. That is not to make light of that in any way, shape, or form. It's just that, the world is different in our experience as people living in Phoenix. You know, I every time I hear that in the summers where all these people are dying in Europe when they're having a heat wave, and you're going, don't I mean, first off, don't they have air conditioning? Not necessarily, but maybe.
No.
But also, they've got humidity, and
Mhm.
compared to compared to us. And of course, the hotter your air is, guess what? The more water it holds to increase humidity if the
Yeah.
water is there, because the gases expand and there's more room for water vapor in there. And yeah, it's just
I was I was
number of
I was
people are
in England.
dead.
I was in
So
England last June, and I don't know if it is as humid or more humid
I
than Taiwan, but holy cow, that was miserable.
yeah, I don't think it is as humid, even though they're on an island. But yeah, it's
It
miserable.
was it was awful. I couldn't wait to get out of there and
And your
get back home.
and your body, you specifically, it's just like me. I mean, well, you've lived elsewhere, but I've lived Arizona my entire life. I've lived in low humidity my entire life. My body knows how to deal with it. It sweats.
Mhm.
And when I hit Taiwan, my body just gets confused. I mean, it sweats and it goes, "No, it's not working. Sweat more. Oh, nope, not working. Sweat more."
Not
I
working.
mean, I'm absolutely look. Other people who've grown up in it, they're sweating, but they're not sweating like I am, and my
Exactly.
body is just confused. But
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta get inside. You've gotta learn when you can't take the heat, and that
And as you pointed out, a lot
I'm
of those
worried about
countries over
that.
there, they don't have air conditioning. England doesn't, not
Yeah,
in the
England,
homes. So,
not
yeah, it was freaking miserable. So, enough of this side trip that we just took.
well, we have to stretch this thing out a little bit. It's like, anyway, yes,
Yeah, because really
uh,
the only thing that I have to really criticize about this episode, I mean, aside from a lot of the stuff that we've talked about already that carried over from the movie, I mean, the really big story change is Weber.
yeah, they had to the movie, of course, has the psychiatrist, the woman, is the one doing the sabotage, right? You think it's Michael Ansara's character because he's the religious nut who's preaching apocalypse, end time stuff, but it's the psychiatrist who is worried that Nelson's mad. And of course, in the movie, we don't know Nelson from Adam, right? I mean, you just enter into this film and there's this brilliant guy who's built this submarine. Is he a nut? I don't know. Is he stable? I don't know. In the TV series, we're, 50 episodes in, and we know Admiral Nelson,
Yeah.
right? You're not gonna, so you can't, yeah. It's interesting that they tried to adapt it, but of course there's a reason for that, and let's talk about that reason right now. There's lots of reused footage in this.
Budget.
Aaron Allen was notorious for reusing footage, and not just from his, but from the stock libraries, and Time Tunnel was filled with stuff like that. But it one of the things that's less effective in this, because he's using so much stock footage, and we talked about in the film, they have that beautiful sky burning effect, right? The problem is that between season 1 and season 2 of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, when they went from black and white to color, they they added the flying sub.
Mhm.
And to add this flying sub, they had to put in a berth underneath the front of the sub, and they reduced the front windows from 2 vertical rows,
To just
or
one.
2 horizontal, there are 2 rows of
Right.
horizontal
2
windows
rows
on
of
the top of
windows.
the, to 1. And always, to me, the sea view is the one row model, and the 2-row model is kind of ugly. And the movie footage is, of course, the 2-row windows and the film, and they use the flying sub, so they have to show and the sea view underwater. So they keep switching back and forth between the front ends of the sub, and it's really jarring. It's really obviously wrong. And I'm wondering if they could have gotten away with, if they had used only footage from the movie for the sea view and they just didn't show the flying sub launching, would the audiences have been, because watching it from one week to the next, it would be Hey, that's the old sea view. What's going on?
And not watching it on televisions the size of a wall.
That's true too. Although I can remember the difference between the subs very clearly from when I was a kid. So, I don't know, but that that was questionable. But a couple things about reusing the footage though. For example, the opening sequence is the same except they've transposed the ocean. They're now in the
Mhm.
Antarctic because they're in the southern hemisphere. And the coordinates that they gave, which were not actual coordinates, they were just a latitude line, 72, 35, 14 south. Doesn't tell you where east, west
True.
on the planet is, but I checked that line and it could be in places where the ice shelf is. It also could be actually on ground in Antarctica, but there are places where, like there's a big bite cut out of Antarctica there. I hate to use the term big bite because we're going to come back to that with Australia, but they could be under the ice shelf there. So it was possible. And then speaking of the point where they have to launch the missiles, which they did give, and it was also not very precise because they didn't even use minutes and degrees. So, wherever, near enough. 58 south, 125. I'm going to say east. My notes say 158 south, 125 north, and I think they may have misspoke in the episode and I just wrote it down. But
Mm.
I based on where they pointed at the map, I'm going to assume that was 125 east because it does put it almost right where he pointed on the map. It's between Antarctica and the Australian Bight, but
Mhm.
much closer to Antarctica. So at least they checked that, roughly speaking. Because there's no flying sub in the movie, they didn't really have any good footage of the flying sub flying through the burning sky.
No.
Best they did was at one point they applied a red filter to the footage, but it was just ordinary stock flying footage of the flying sub. And we also have that. Oh, and no, what I was gonna say, I sorry, lost my train of thought. The ice dropping. So the opening sequence, the ice is
Oh, yeah.
dropping on the
Mhm.
thing. In the film, we mentioned this. I'm pretty sure we mentioned this.
We did
Doesn't
mention
make
it.
much sense. Doesn't make much sense. And in this, I think it was Sharky that says, "Hey, this doesn't make much sense." Or was it
No,
Morton? I don't
it was it no, it wasn't Sharky. It was oh god. You got
Was it
you
the
said the name.
XO? Chip
Yeah, the X
Morton?
yeah, Morton.
Yeah,
He said, "I thought
and
ice was supposed to float."
well, yes, and and
And then
Nelson's and I
Nelson comes up with the best answer that I just grabbed my head and shook it and went, "Oh my god, I can't believe he just said that."
he did, but it works. It's like at least there's an excuse. I feel like because this is, the script is William Welch, but it's from a screenplay by Irwin Allen and I forgot who the other guy was. Sorry. And that bugged us in the first film, so at least they gave us it must have bugged him. He's looking at that and like, I don't understand why the ice is oh, okay, well, we'll make an excuse. They're dropping it into the drink. It's like, I still feel like it would have to be being dropped from the sky,
Yeah,
but
to make
okay.
that to go down that far. Well, but then Nelson even not Nelson, but Crane says that.
Yeah,
At least
yeah.
Crane, they gave Crane that line. He says, "It must be dropped from really high."
I
But
I don't really have an idea how tall the ice shelf is, but I guess
I
if it's
know,
dropping off the top of the ice shelf, it might be dropping a couple 100 feet.
but the part that still galls me is that throughout all of that sequence, we never see the ice come back up.
No, it was kind of bobbing a little bit, but yeah, it was
Not
yeah,
much. It really wasn't coming back up, and we didn't never really got to see it floating all over the place. So
yeah,
I'm
that
like,
that is
"Okay,
true.
you guys, all right, you tried to explain it, you failed, but I'm gonna give you half a point."
Well, they couldn't show it because they didn't have any footage of it from the movie.
No.
'Cause that had to be what
Well,
it
that's
was.
why they're only getting half a point.
Yeah. So then there's the search for the missing nozzle.
Oh, that was funny.
That was funny. So somebody throws a body into a transformer or an electrical panel, it blows stuff out, and then that causes a jet nozzle to
Just
spontaneously shoot
get
out of the sub,
right, it was dislodged from the sea view.
and they're like, "Well, put in a spare." It's like, "We haven't got a spare." That's like a 1 in a million accident, chief. It just couldn't happen. It's like, "All right, well, we'll have to go out onto the surface of the water or into the bottom of the sea and find it." And you're like, "Oh, footage from the movie." In the movie, they're looking for cable, an undersea cable to
Mhm.
try to contact the UN. In this, they're looking for the nozzle. And I'm like, "Oh, giant squid, giant squid. We're
I
gonna
was
have
waiting for the squid,
we're
and we
having
never
our
got it.
mind control and we're having the giant squid." And we didn't get the giant squid. I feel cheated. I really
Yeah,
feel cheated.
I did. I was expecting the squid. Why
We could
not?
have we could have saved the part where they crashed this flying sub and had to go the rest of the way underwater and had the squid back in. I don't get it. I was very upset about
With
that.
the plethora of other undersea monstrosities that show up in this series, I was shocked we didn't get the squid.
I was really shocked they didn't use the squid footage. That was amazing. Unless they've used the squid footage in another episode recently and they
What?
didn't
That's gonna
want to.
stop them?
Well, it might if it was like episode 17.
I doubt it.
Uh,
I really, really doubt that was a consideration.
it's it's possible. And the other thing I thought this was really interesting, or okay, not interesting, but well executed, all things considered. So they're on the bridge. Weber's got the gun on him. He's got the grenade. The gun's obviously empty because the barrel is sticking out like he's exhausted the whole clip, but he's got the grenade in his hand. He hasn't pulled out the pin at this point.
Yet.
But well, he's holding a gun in one hand and a grenade in the other hand, and Sharky's a couple feet from him. Sharky should have jumped him when it was obvious the gun was empty and held that hand so he couldn't pull the pin. But
Yeah.
okay, Sharky'd been drugged. I'm I'm only fine on that. But Crane hears it and he's like, okay, he goes out to do the thing. On the bridge, one character says 30 seconds till launch time. And then we cut to Crane outside and he sets the dial on that doohickey to 20 seconds,
Yes.
puts it on and touches. So they actually, I think, timed it out so
That's what
that
I
from
thought too.
30 seconds to the 20 seconds on the timer
It was on
was
mark.
act was on mark for it, which
Yeah.
is like the first time I've ever seen that in a TV show ever. But
I was actually
it was
impressed
close
with that.
enough.
I was impressed with that part, although when when you look at the clock that was inside the sea view and it goes past the time that it was supposed the 0 hour or whatever you wanna call it, then Weber says, it's done, it's too late now," and right as he says is when the rocket goes off.
Yes. Yeah, it's yeah. And I
So
wonder how
it was
precise it
off by,
had to
like,
be.
5 seconds.
Yeah. How precise did that launch have to be anyway? Did it have to be on that minute? Did it have to be, where's the margin of error?
Yeah, not to mention the whole scientific plausibility of that thing working.
Yeah, I mean, I can and the funny thing is, so, like, in the movie, the entire atmosphere is on fire, and Nelson's theory is that it's gonna, like, kinda like an oil well fire, gonna blow it out and deprive it of what it needs so that the fire goes out, and I kinda get that, I'm not really crazy about it, but in the second one, I can actually see how it might, blow it into the northern hemisphere. So, I actually kinda get it a little bit better than I do in the movie.
Mhm.
Uh, why the worry? But yeah, yeah. By the way, they use the giant squid in both 11 Days to Zero and The Village of Guilt, apparently.
Hmm,
They had used the squid before. Maybe they thought maybe we can't get away with it for a third time.
maybe.
Maybe. We got a couple CV rock and roll, just a little bit there at the beginning with the ice cubes dropping on it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have the show without that. Oh, and Lee attaching the doohickey on the outside was also stock footage from the movie. Let's see. Have I got anything else? Oh yeah. So you got the people in the southern hemisphere and they're all burning up and dying. Is anybody trying to evacuate them?
Oh, great question. What's the UN doing to help those people?
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, you are not going to move.
You can't move them all.
No, you can't move them all. And obviously, it's causing problems with planes. But is there an armada of ships that are just filling the ports and heading north as fast as they can? Because all you got to do is to reach Ecuador,
Yeah.
and then you'll be fine. And of course, people could be migrating on foot or cars or whatever. It's like, again, you only have to get to Ecuador. You don't have to get to North America. Australia's got a problem, obviously, but
But you've got the ships.
you've got ships,
Because
and
all they need to do is just get to the north of the equator,
you know,
pretty
um,
much.
so yeah, it's. I would have liked to have heard. I mean, obviously, you want the tragedy, and there's just no way you're going to be able to save anything but in a tiny, tiny percentage of it. But at the same time, it would be nice to know that they're actually trying to save people, as many people as they can. But we don't see that. And the other thing is, of course, we didn't mention it. It's as far as I can tell, it's got absolutely no logical way that we can justify this, and I'll try anyway. How it could stop at the equator.
Yeah.
So I do have a totally doesn't work, but you could have at least tried it. So as I'm sure you know, cyclonic storms, which would be cyclones, hurricanes, typhoons,
Mhm.
rotate different directions
Right.
in different hemispheres. And the reason they do that is because, if you're standing 1 foot away from the South Pole, you make one circuit in 24 hours, but you're really only traveling about 6 feet
Mhm.
in 24 hours. But if
Yes.
you're at the equator, you're traveling the entire circumference of the Earth in 24 hours. You're actually moving very much faster at the equator than you are at the poles.
True.
And that's why cyclonic motion happens the way it does, because at, at every point on the map, as you go closer to the poles, the speed that the planet is traveling underneath you is different. And so that's what sets up the prevailing direction of the storms. It's the rotation of the Earth and the varying differences in the rotation of the speed of the Earth. And so hurricanes, cyclones cannot cross the equator. They dissipate if you try that. So they just don't. They just really can't. That would be what would happen if they came close. But the fact is that they don't. You don't get hurricanes at the equator. Maybe it's got something to do with that. I don't know what it would
Mm,
be, but maybe it's got something to do with that. Maybe as it
that's a
approaches the equator,
reach.
it is. It is, but at least I tried. They didn't. There's a magic line at the equator that's doing it. And I can imagine somebody watching this think, what, like, is there a glass wall or something? But there is an atmospheric difference between the northern and the southern
That is
hemisphere.
true.
It
That is
should
true.
stop fire, but there is a difference. And yeah, I don't know. It's the best I could come up with, and I'll admit it was a stretch. So you hear
Like,
about,
Barbara
right?
Bain's face.
Yes, that's a
Whoops.
stretch.
Yep.
Whoa.
There
Oh,
there I went. Oh my god.
points
Well,
for
you gave it
you.
to me.
Points for you on that one. I mean, yeah, it was a nice setup, but it was totally unintentional. And you spiked that one. That was, phew,
Thank
score.
you.
That was, and if it had hit Bain's face, it would have bounced back twice as fast as the speed it had gone in. All right.
Oh, there's Eugene for the extra point.
So I checked this, and it turns out it has happened in real life.
What? Fire in the sky?
Soldiers have jumped on grenades to save other people's
Oh,
lives.
yes, that is true, it has happened, and it's pretty messy.
Yeah, I like the fact that they say to Sharky, it's like, well, he took the full blow to the you can imagine what that means. It means, yes, it means Sharky's dead too. Because
Mhm.
because
No,
it
they
would have
said
gone right.
Weber took the full blast of it.
Yes, but the shrapnel would have, and
But
this
the
is what I
oh,
checked all
yeah, it would have easily
shrapnel would have
ta
gone
it would have
through.
completely killed,
A US
it would have killed
grenade has a
Sharky,
lethality of 5 meters.
and
Anyone in
it would have
5
made
meters,
it would have made a mess
but
of the bridge.
it would have made a mess of the bridge. It should have killed Sharky. It obviously would not only would it have the shrapnel punctured the heck out of Weber, but the percussive shock would have blown up all his organs. Just the impact of the explosion. He's dead. Sharky should be dead too. But there are documented cases where people have thrown themselves on grenades and prevented injuries from other people or prevented his. Now, it's oddly enough, it's gotten a little more common, apparently, in modern warfare, where they've actually got hard armor on. It still kills them for the most part, but it does, because of the hard armor they're now wearing in combat. It does make. And then one guy took his armored helmet and put it on top of a grenade and then jumped on top of the helmet, and he died. But
Yeah.
he did save some people in the area, apparently. So I mean, Sharky, no. Sharky, no. No. I just don't see any way that he could have possibly survived. That shrapnel would have gone through Weber like parts of Weber. Bones would have stopped it and fat and whatnot, but bits of Weber would have been blown into Sharky. Bone
Easily.
shards, shrapnel. Yeah, Sharky's dead, but you can't kill Sharky because he's Sharky, man. And he had to redeem himself a little bit more. I love the fact that they're fighting, right? He's attacked Kowalski and Riley. And fun fact, Riley was added to the show in the second season because he's a surfer dude, and they felt they needed a surfer dude, man, because it's the 60s.
Oh, cool.
No. Anyway, he's fighting with Riley. He attacks Riley and Kowalski, and then Chip comes in, and he's like, "Oh, about," and he attacks Chip, right? And then later, when they've got him up for charges, hitting an officer is a serious offense. What about hitting Kowalski and Riley? Was that a serious offense, or is that not that big of a deal? I
It's
mean,
not as serious.
it's like, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that hitting an officer is a worse offense than hitting a fellow human being. But all right, I guess it's the military and they think they're important. But there you go.
Well,
Um,
striking an officer is a court-martial offense.
I can't believe striking another soldier isn't a court martial offense.
Not to that degree, I don't think it is.
Huh.
But
See, I'm
striking a superior officer, and Sharky isn't even an officer.
no, he's
He's just a chief.
a chief petty
So,
right?
yeah,
CPO.
so to strike an officer, yeah, in the military, I do believe that is a court-martial
Oh,
offense or
officer
court.
is absolutely a court martial offense. Striking an officer, I mean, that's absolutely, because part of it has to do with the chain of command, right? It has to do with this person is your better. And when he
Mhm.
tells you to jump, you jump how high. There is no lipping off. But, you know, if striking an officer is a court martial offense, why isn't court martial is just a criminal trial? Why isn't striking another chief petty officer
It's a great
across?
question.
Why isn't that a court
I don't
martial
know.
offense? And I think it is. I just don't think it's it's like a class 1 felony versus a class 2 felony. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know my military law. I can't say.
Yeah, I just feel like Crane should have paid lip service to it. You know, it's like striking an officer and fighting with your fellow crew is a are court martialing offenses. But no, we've ignored Kowalski and Stu. They're fine. They got lantern jaws. They get beat up every time, if not mind controlled. So it's okay. and this
Hmm.
week, both. Uh, I have exactly one other thing to say about Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the TV series. I love the theme tune.
The theme tune is pretty cool.
I love the theme tune. I am so glad they didn't try to take that god awful music cue from the movie
Oh,
and turn
it
it
was
into
bad.
it was
Yeah.
awful. And the series, the theme, it's always just like sets the scene for the series. It's like, oh, yep, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea's on. I love it.
Mhm.
Mind control is coming.
Or your
Or the way
monster of
it's
the
made.
week, or your
Yeah.
ghost of the week.
Yeah, I think I was looking at these on my Plex server, and when you finish one episode, it then shows you what the next one is, and I look at it and it's like, oh, giant man of war. Okay.
Mm.
They are predictable. It's gonna be this week, it's gotta be a giant something. Anyway, well, I was a little concerned that we were not going to be able to get even a remotely long enough time about discussing this episode in relation to the original movie that I was going to have to put this out as some sort of a bonus episode. But no,
Hey, we did it.
we did it. We are on the money. Ben, thank you for joining me.
Oh, a pleasure as always.
And listeners, I do hope you'll join us all again next time on Fusion Patrol.
Cheers.
This has been Fusion Patrol. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, we hope you'll consider supporting us at buymeacoffee.com/fusionpatrol or patreon.com/fusionpatrol. For our Patreon subscribers, we're currently running a special series on Babylon 5. Come join the conversation and find other content at fusionpatrol.com. You can contact us on social media where our Fediverse address is @podcast@fusionpatrol.com or by email at feedback@fusionpatrol.com. Fight the Future by Amberwolf is our theme music. You can find more from Amberwolf at bandcamp.com. This has been a Lone Locust production.